going to begin this hour with anti-racist activist Ibram X. Kendi, who is turning classic works by a literary icon into books for children. Kendi is adapting 6 of Zora Neale Hurston's stories into picture books. The illustrations are so fantastic. They come from Hurston's 1935 book of folktales, Mules and Men. Kendi's second book in the series is called The Making of Butterflies. It's a story of how butterflies were created. Here's a clip of Kendi's 6-year-old daughter, Imani, who's reading the book.
That's how come we got so many gorgeous butterflies of every color and kind.
Oh, I like that room setting. Ibram X. Kendi is a CBS News contributor and also the director of the Center for Anti-Racist Research at Boston University. Good morning. Congratulations to your favorite daughter. Gorgeous is a big word when you're 6 years old. But you know what, Ibram, I didn't read my first Zora Neale Hurston book until I was in college. Most people don't take on that kind of literature until you're older, late teens, early 20s. What made you think, you know what, we should adapt this as a children's book?
I mean, that's the reason. Same for me.
That's the reason?
I didn't read Zora.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't just me.
Yes.
Okay.
And I had a daughter, of course. I know, of course, we have many children here who, why should they not be reading one of the greatest sort of writers and collectors of folklore and history?
What do you want kids, what's the message you want kids to get from The Making of Butterflies?
Just the beauty of creativity and creation and inventiveness. And just for them to think about like how the world came to be and everything in it.
Yeah.
You say there's also a deeper message that adults can take away from this.
Well, I think that anything that can be created can be recreated.
Yeah.
And so when we're living in a world where certain things, we don't like how they've come to be, we as adults can change it.
So parents who, in my experience, do all the shopping for kids, I don't see a lot of kids walking through the aisles of bookstores.
That's true.
Not when they're under the age of 4. Maybe a little bit at the older age.
That's true.
But so one thing that will happen, right, when parents pick up this book is they will notice that it's written in a style you call Ibram X, which is basically African-American slang version of English, right? Why was it important, which is true to Zora's style of writing, why was it important to you to preserve that?
Well, first, I mean, Zora heard these folk tales in Ebonics. She wrote them in Ebonics, and I think the tales would have been lost. There were certain meanings within it would have been lost if we didn't preserve the language itself in which it was sort of carried to people. And I also think it's a way for people to learn about a different culture. One of the ways you learn about different cultures is through learning about different languages.
Mm-hmm.
So when parents are thinking about, and when they are reading this book with children, how would you recommend they discuss with their children the importance of the African-American vernacular and more specifically, its importance to African-Americans in culture and in history?
One of the beautiful things about African-Americans, like other groups, is we're incredibly diverse. And so there are people who speak different languages. So there are people who indeed, in the late 1920s, they spoke Ebonics and told folk tales in that language, just as there were others who spoke English or French or Portuguese. And so that's one of the ways to sort of, this really speaks to the diversity, you know, of the African-American experience.
Well, help me because I'm struggling here. I confess I'm struggling. I'm such a stickler for good grammar. And I think when you're teaching kids who don't, like, let me find.
There are double negatives.
Yeah, well,
there are
let me
variations
just read.
on standard spelling.
Yes,
you
yes,
call it
yes.
standard spelling.
Yeah, but, okay, I had marked the page. Of course, I don't have it upstairs. Wait a second. It says, way after while, de flowers, D-E flowers, we's put here to keep de world company, but we's lonesome ourselves. I'm struggling because when you're trying to teach kids at a young age how to read, quote, proper English, isn't this confusing? I get it because all of us here know the difference, but when you're trying to teach children, is it not important that they learn proper English? Well, this is what I'm struggling, and I don't want to be insulting to what you're doing here.
No, I mean, part of what's happening, particularly with young children, is they're learning to write and read phonetically. Mm-hmm. So they're sounding out sounds, and they're writing those sounds. So my daughter had just the experience of watching her learn how to read and write, particularly over the last 2 years. And initially, she would write out what she heard.
Spelling it out phonetically.
Spelling it out phonetically. And indeed, teachers, kindergarten, first grade teachers, wouldn't correct students. They want them to sound it out and write it out in that way. So to me, it both allows children who are learning English to learn English while simultaneously learning a different language.
A different language. You see it as that significant as there's English and then there's the language of this book.
Yeah, I mean, that's what linguists say, language is a form of communication with rules.
But you're judged by language. If you go out on a job interview and you're not speaking proper English, you're really judged by that.
Or what is deemed proper English.
What is deemed proper English? I know, I'm really hung up on this. So that's why I want you to help me get through this.
And,
Because I have a grandson, I read to him all the time. But go ahead, Ibram.
No, and also these are young children.
Yes.
And this is a board book, and we specifically made it a board book. But even 4 to 8-year-olds we may read this to 4 to 8-year-olds. Hopefully, we're not judging 4 to 8-year-olds by how they speak.
Yeah.
And you got Magnolia Flower also, which is another beautiful, beautiful story by Zora Neale Hurston. So this is an incredible
it's a
series.
Beautiful book, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea of it a lot. Oh,
Yeah, it was like,
I'm like, why isn't Vlad still reading? Ibram X.
I can
Kendi.
keep talking as I often
We
do, but
thank
then John
you.
Tower
We
will
thank
yell at me in my
The
ear.
Making of Butterflies is on sale today, wherever you like to buy your
It'll
books.
make you think, it'll make you talk, for
Yes,
sure.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Because we've been talking about it all
morning.
All morning.